What's up guys, it is me, Mad Samurai 84 here for my penultimate PS Plus plays for 2022. We're in the month of December and we have some fresh games to play and to add into our catalogue. So far I think the year's been pretty alright, it's been not bad, some good offerings, some mediocre, some poor. But all round, I think it's been an alright year, and we have 3 more games to cap off the year. One brand new game, one new-ish game hasn't been out too long, and one remaster of a classic trilogy. So I've played through these games for a bit. Some I've played more than others because I've got really into them. So I've played through it, and I basically say what I did like, what I don't like about the games, and then I give a thumb score where I think it's a good game and a thumb score where I think it's a good offering. So anyway, let's jump into these games and see how December has fared to end the year. So our first game for the end of the year is a game called Divine Knockout, the Founders Edition. Now, this was a day one release that we got, which, we sometimes get, but we don't get too many of them. The first thing I noticed about this game was when I was adding it into my library, I saw that it was about, 20 English pounds, and I thought, oh, okay, it's like a mid-tier price game. And the second thing I noticed is when I was in game, I noticed it's a very colourful game. The character designs are like on the cell shaded spectrum, which I quite like cell shaded games, especially back in the PS2 era. It was like a nice thing, but you don't see it that often now. But it's kind of nice to see when it's used in games. But it can be used as to make a game look semi-good looking by trying to cover up some cracks. This is rather a middle-of-the-road third-person platformer brawler game where you can take control of about 10 different gods. 7, as 3 are stuck behind a levelling up system or a paywall, depending if you can't be bothered to. But that pay will set you back about another £20. So is this game worth spending £40 or even £20 on? I'm going to say no. But it is an okay game. The character designs are pretty decent. The level design is also not too bad. As for the gameplay wise, you have about three online modes. It's basically an online only game: 3v3, 2v2, and 1v1. But from the start, you have 3v3, then you have to unlock, which I find is a bit silly, the other modes. But I've had somewhat enjoyment playing the 3v3. There are a few different battle modes with you got the knockout, which is basically the first team to 8. You got King of the Hill, and then one called Oddball, basically just like hold on to the crown for us to get up to 100 points within the time limit. I'm not sure if there's any more, but with the kind of like 2+ hours I've kind of spent playing it, I haven't really come across any more. So you kind of just go into game, you've got 3 rounds, and it's basically the best of 3 rounds. Oh, no, it's the first of 3, sorry, that's correct. But for a game like this, the most important thing is like how well it controls and plays. I have to say, it controls rather well, and it plays just as well. It controls. The gods have a range of specials and super moves, and the more you play, you unlock moves which you can change your loadout, which is quite not bad. But will this title, will you spend more than the initial 30 minutes playing? For me, I say no. With not much content outside the online play, with just 10 characters to choose from and a handful of arenas and game modes, you'll find little reason to go back and play this. You might kind of jump in if a friend wants to play it, but it's very minimalistic, let's put it that way. It's okay for just a jump in and jump out, but you're not going to be really spending too much time playing this game. And I feel like once I'm done with it, I'm most likely going to be deleting it. When you look at its Metacritic score, there's no scores. There's a single score of a 70 from the Daily Star. There's no proper user score. There's one person who's given it a 5 at the moment. And so yeah, there's not really much out there, really. No one's really bothered to play this and properly review it. And you know what? I can probably see why. There's so many kind of better games to be playing, and this isn't one of them. To be honest, it's yeah, you can get some sort of enjoyment out of it, but that enjoyment is short-lived. So if we look at my thumb scores, I think for this game I would give it a game score of a quarter of a thumb up, just because it's an okay game. It plays all right, but there's not really much in there, and it does seem like one of those games where they kind of want you to kind of buy the stars, the rubies, the coins, so you can unlock this and that. They have a whole shop thing, really. You can level up to get these things, but they, to progress further and unlock things, you can buy things like outfits, this, that, you know, themes for your player card, blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh really? Okay, no thank you. But as an offering score, I think I'm going to go with another quarter thumb up, and that's basically because I'm going to go with that because we've got it. It's a day one, so which is quite nice to get day one release, but this isn't the type of day one release game you want to be getting. There's more better games. I would rather get a day one release, but it is what it is. It's there as it's a filler. It's a filler game to add into the catalogue for the month. So yeah, not too great, but you may find some enjoyment out of it. But for me, I'm gonna give this like a pass. Now, our second title for December is a game called Biomutant. Now, I kind of remember the reveal back in 2017. I never really heard anything until the release. Basically, we've got the PS4 and the PS5 version of this game. The PS4 version came out in 2021, and the PS5 version came out in September 2022, so not too long ago. And I have to say, I had some sort of interest to play this game just purely based on the box art. This game is like an action RPG where you control your created little creation or creature, and you explore the vast but somewhat linear pathed open world to save this world from a bunch of bad guys called the World Eaters, which sounds like there may be some sort of fun there. There's some sort of fun to be had. But when you start Biomutant, you get the point that they haven't really moved past their initial announcement trailer, as that plays before the start screen and kind of looks a little bit outdated. It's even funny when you see in-game the in-game version of that cutscene. That's a sight to behold, let's put it that way. Now, the really interesting thing about this game is when you start seeing the in-game graphics in the character creation, and by God, it is rather ugly, and you can really make an odd looking creature. That is something to behold. And then when you actually get into the game, you think you've been transported to 2010 and you're playing a game on a PS3. And yeah, like if you were to show this to a person who's never heard or seen this game before and asked when do you think this game was released, they definitely wouldn't say 2021 or 2022. No way. And it does get worse when you see the in-game cutscenes. It's rather poor. Doesn't really compete on any graphics milestone for the PS4 or PS5 version. It doesn't look pretty, but things do get better. The game controls much better than it looks, but the controls are still a bit janky in the general traversing and combat. And I I do like the upgrading and crafting of equipment in and weapons. I do like that. You kind of gather the materials and you can add things, upgrade things. That's not too bad what they've put in there. But you know, now it's an open world. You expect to have it beaming with life, but so far on my travels, the areas with any life seem to be rather segregated to just the areas near the points where you travel of interest, where there's missions. There isn't really much going outside of these areas, but those areas aren't that big, and as there are like a few places in the game so far, but it does feel like a lost opportunity where you could have brought some real life into this world. Instead, they just dialed up the colours and made it bright, but yet rather dull in quite a few areas. The gameplay was rather simple. Go here, get some main missions, and a couple of side missions, travel here, beat these enemies, travel here, collect this and that. Pretty standard. And the one thing that I find annoying and really rubbish for this type of game is that it's all narrated, but it's by this like a one voice that sounds like it's been lifted off a game from the PS2 era. Really, they didn't voice any characters. They all speak their animal sounds, and the narrator tells you what they said while narrating the story of the game. That is a big disappointment. Not that the voiceover is bad. It's bad that they couldn't be bothered to bring the characters to life by giving their own unique voice, and I think that would have really added to this game. But what I did like about this game is that even with its faults, it's one of those 5 to 6 out of 10 games where you kind of have fun playing it. It's quite hard to explain. You probably have had it where you do play some games which have been rated low and you actually kind of enjoy it. You know it's not the greatest, but it's still quite fun. You know, there is a vast array of moves to unlock with all the weapon sets, so you can have fun leveling up and unlocking these. And when you get different types of weapons, you can change your weapons in the game instead of having to go to the options and change stuff in your equipment menu. And then you get a nice thing I want to say is like you go to a wasteland area and you get to control like a goddamn mech robot. Yes, you heard me right, correctly. And that was rather fun to traverse the area and kill the enemies, and it was controlled pretty well. I thought, you know, it's a fun, bad, ugly game that you can get into. You have to say you need to play it for a bit, and then it starts to grow on you. I can only say that I will play through this game because it's fun, even with its problems, and there are quite a few problems. And when you look at its Metacritic, its PS4 score is a 64, its PS5 score is a 69. When you look at the user score, the PS4 is sitting at a 6.7, and the PS5 version is actually sitting up a bit higher. It's sitting at an 8. So it's that middle of the road type 6 out of 10 type game. So if I was to give my thumb scores for this game, I would think I would give a game score of a thumb in the middle, because it's an okay game. It has lots of problems. It doesn't look pretty. It has its problems, but there's actually quite a bit of fun to it. It's not terrible, but it's not great. As an offering score, I think it's an alright offering. They've given us a game where it's actually quite fun to play. It has issues, but we've got a game that's not too old, not too pretty, but it's actually, you can have a bit of fun with it. So my offering score would be a 3/4 of a thumb up, because it's not too bad really. It could have been the game could have been so much better, but it's not. But it's an alright game, and it's actually a not too bad offering. It's something I've kind of like, oh, I want to give it a go, but now I've played it, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play through it. Now, to cap off the year, we have been given Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Now, this came out in April 2021, so it's about a year and a half old. The original Mass Effect 1 came out in 2007, Mass Effect 2 came out in 2010, and Mass Effect 3 came out in 2012. So we've got a kind of penultimate of like a 15-year gap between the first game to now. And I've only played the first two on the Xbox 360, and I thought they were great. I never got around to playing the third, and I do remember there was a lot of backlash on the ending, and BioWare created a new ending to keep players happy. I'm not sure what happened. I think probably Shepard died, or well, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. But now playing the original after the 15 years since I played it, I have to say I'm really happy to be back in this universe. They have managed to give it a nice coat of paint on it, but I am a little disappointed that they didn't try update the graphics at all, and also not doing a PS5 version with better textures was a bit of a sour note as well. I feel like they probably could have done something a bit more, but they didn't. I think it was just get it out there. I think because they're working on a new BioWare game, hopefully that is a bit better than the last. These games are I think it's probably BioWare at their finest. You know, they had the great Knights of the Old Republic game and the great Jade Empire. There is a lot to these games, and you will keep playing them for a long time because there is a lot to them. You know, you get to visit different systems in your ship, the Normandy, land on planets, which outside of the main story quests are littered with like some side quests and some boring like salvaging things, this and that. It gets, but I have to say, it does get slightly tedious when going into a system and you click onto a planet and it just gives you info. There's nothing really to do after clicking onto that system full of planets. You can't actually visit. It's annoying. Then you have to back out and you fly somewhere else. It's just slightly annoying. I wish there was probably more planets you could probably go into. And the one thing you think of when jumping into like a 15-year-old game is how well does it control after all the years? I would like to say, well, it controls well and not that well. I find that the controls have definitely aged and they feel slightly clunky. Even with like Shepard's run animation is something that will make you laugh. I don't know why it never came to EA's mind to maybe update and smooth it out, but on the most part it is still rather playable, and it doesn't really ruin your experience after you have sunk a couple of hours into it. It just won't bother you. You know, BioWare have really managed to make a really good series in the original trilogy. Let's not talk about Andromeda. It's a definite recommendation to any fan of sci-fi action RPGs. There are a few graphical glitches, but from my experience so far, there are few and far between. In the end of the year, month, day, whatever you want to say, we have really got a solid game here with 3 titles in it, which are fun to play, even though maybe slightly outdated in some areas. It is annoying that it is just a little coat of paint instead of some sort of remake to update this game into like the current world with tighter controls, better graphics, as that is something I would have been happy to pay full price for each game instead of just being bundled into some remastered collection. But at least this collection was done and it just wasn't forgotten, so new people can experience this great trilogy, probably not experiencing it in the best condition for modern new gamers. But I'm happy that I will now finish the Shepard trilogy that I never originally did. It's a really top quality game, and I really do recommend it. Now, when you look at its Metacritic, it sits at an 87, so it's scored quite well with the critics. But when you look at its user score, I think a lot of users were probably very disappointed with it, maybe with some of the things I've raised, but with some of the kind of graphical glitches. I won't go into detail, but it's just flickering, this and that. It's nothing like really that bad, but the controls and not making more of an effort on the graphics is probably what people were probably upset about. I haven't really looked into it, but the game still plays rather well. Now, if I was to do my thumb scores, as a game score, I'm going to give it a 3/4 of a thumb up, really, because I feel it's fully deserved to be a 3/4 thumb up. It would have been more if things had been fixed and tightened up, but it is a nice game and a nice trilogy to play in. As an offering score, we've got a excellent trilogy. That's the remastered edition only came out a year and a half ago, so as for an offering score, I think I would go with a full thumb up. I think it's very well deserved. We've got a 1.5-year-old release of 3 excellent titles, and yeah, I think it's a great way to cap off the year, to be honest. With something like that, you don't have to play anything else. You could just literally just play through the Mass Effect trilogy for Christmas, and you will enjoy yourself experiencing this game. Really, that should have really be experienced by a lot of people. So I think it's a good job we got this one. Now we've played for all the games, we've scored them. Now we should look at the month as a whole. So we'll start off with Divine Knockout. Game score of a 1/4 of a thumb up and an offering score of a 1/4 of a thumb up. It's an alright game. Day one, not great, not much to it. There is a little bit of fun there. It's probably one of those games you have to make your own mind up, but for me, I won't be playing it again. Our second title is Biomutant. Now, this is a game that it's not pretty, but it's kind of fun to play. So I gave that a game score of a thumb in the middle and an offering score of a 3/4 of a thumb up. And to finish off the month, we got Mass Effect, a Legendary Edition. 3 quality games to play. Well, I've only played 2. I'm assuming the third one is of a quality as well. I gave that a game score of a 3/4 of a thumb up and an offering score of a thumb up. Now, we've played those. Some are good, some are middle of the road, some are really good. So what do we give as an overall score for December? Now, overall game score, I'm going to give it a thumb in the middle, really, because I wish it was better, but it's not really. A thumb in the middle, I think, is probably is the Divine Knockout really hampered it. If that was better, then maybe it might have been a bit of a better game score month. As an offering score for the month, I'm going to go with an overall offering of a 3/4 of a thumb up. I think overall we got probably better games than we probably were expecting. Some are better than others, some are better than you think, and some are worse than you think. Really, let's put it that way. That's probably one way to look at it. So overall, it's an okay month, but not a great month. But, I think having the Mass Effect Legendary Edition probably makes up for the first game. The Biomutant, I'm just going to... You take it or leave it, whether you're going to like it or not. Really, for me personally, I think it's an alright offering for an okay game. But you can't put down the Mass Effect trilogy that there are good games, yet slightly outdated maybe in some areas. Probably could have been done better, maybe. I think they could have been, but it was kind of just to put out there, earn some dollar, probably see if there was probably much demand or much talk about it of them bothering to do a new one. And I think they are working on a new Mass Effect, so hopefully it kind of harpens back to the original trilogy and not the fourth installment to the series, which I haven't played. I just know it looks really ugly. The old Mass Effect games look better than the new Mass Effect game that came out only in 2017. So, and I will play that one day. I want to play through the originals before I get into that. But anyway, that's it for December. That's it for 2022. What did you think of this month's games? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you have good holidays and a happy new year. So until next time guys, take care, look after yourselves, bye.